Lunch with Joey and Tetsu, and we have a special guest today, Conor Clyne, uh, commonly known as the Language Tsar. I don't know if you called yourself that or if somebody ended up calling you that, and that's how you became known as the Language Tsar. But either
I'll
way,
go with that.
we have a special guest we're very, very happy to have Conor with us today. Last year, when we had LangFest, on the last day, we made the first big announcement. The one person that was already signed up, I guess, to come and speak at the conference for this 2018 edition, and the big name was Conor Clyne, and everybody was really, really very happy to know that you were going to be coming. I think for most people in North America, they haven't really had a chance to interact with you or meet you. A lot of the polyglots that follow each other from conference to conference have seen you at the gathering or at the polyglot conference, I assume. However, for us in North America, for me, for example, it's going to be a treat because we get to see you. And you're a guy that has inspired a lot of people with your travels, and with your ability to immerse yourself in a language and learn from the context and whatever's around you. Um, I was looking in researching to prepare for this interview that we were going to have with you, Conor. I saw you did a video in Santorini, Greece, which in itself, Santorini, is such a beautiful city. It was a couple of months after the conference, so I assume you went to the Polyglot conference. Matt, maybe you can explain to us how this all started for you. How did you get immersed into languages? Where you originally from? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thanks for the phenomenal introduction, Joey. Yeah, I'm super pumped about LangFest this year, and it was a pity I couldn't actually come last year. We should let everyone in, and that's the reason why I was so early announced because it just wasn't possible for me to go last year. So, and my name is Conor Clyne. I was known as the Language Tsar. I guess you can still call me the Language Tsar. I'm not sure if you're going to keep the language with it, or just you can call me Tsar, whatever. In general. So I'm Irish British. I was born in Ireland, and I was basically inspired by the very first Polyglot conference, which was organized by Richard Simcott, and it was in Budapest, Hungary. I think in 2013. The years started to pass by, and I think that was the first edition. And I just found it a really inspiring event. I've been following a lot of the polyglots online, like Steve Kaufman, Peggy Lewis, Susanna, and just lots of others like you. I'm actually speaking to you from Odessa in Ukraine. I should point that out. Joe and I just had a little bit of a conversation off camera about the languages here. So for anyone who's interested in coming to Ukraine, whilst Ukrainian is the official language, I'm having my flat white by the way.
So flat, you can order a flat white in
Ukrainian and Russian is the same word.
yeah.
We just saw that in full action a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's it. So for those of us that would want to go, how do you say, "Can I have a flat white, please," in Russian?
In Russian, you would say "можно flat white, пожалуйста," and if you want to say that in Ukrainian, you would say "мне flat white, будь ласка." So there were the two languages covered for this city here. So a lot of cities in Ukraine, Russian is more widely spoken. You can, of course, speak in Ukrainian if you want, but here in Odessa, actually, most people are going to address you in Russian. So it's a little bit of a strange thing for people when they hear Ukraine and then they're like, why are you speaking in Russian? So that's why I speak here normally in Russian. If I were in Lviv in the west of Ukraine, I would speak in Ukrainian. And only if, well, actually, I wouldn't have to speak Russian there. Everybody speaks Ukrainian there. So that's kind of the big difference. So as I was saying, I got inspired by this conference. And then I decided to set up my website, Language Tsar, and also which was a blog originally and a YouTube channel where I interviewed a lot of the major poets. Just got my brownie coming in. You're going to see me in my office, by the way. So this is why.
It's a pretty cool vibe. Nice office.
Yes, exactly. I'm just going to give you the little bit of an office tour.
All right.
This is a bit of free advertising.
There you go.
Tishina
What is the name of the place where you're at?
Tishina.
Tishina?
Tishina, yeah. It's that actually means, is it like quiet or Pacific or something like that? So pacifist, it means quietness, I think. I'm always forgetting. Not
It
a word I
seems like
use very
there's still a
often.
lot of light. How many hours away are you from Montreal? What time is it there now? 7
Oh,
hours? I'm gonna wait for him to come back.
Yep.
Oh, you're back.
yes.
Sorry, we lost you for a second. I was asking you, what time is it in Odessa? Is it 7 hours
7 p.m.
away?
Yeah, it's 7
7
p.m.
p.m.
So I guess that's 7 hours. Yeah, yesterday was the summer solstice, so I think it was 9:16 p.m. was when the sun set here. So as you see, it's like really bright. We just had a deluge on the way in. It was like the end of the world, and then suddenly Odessa appeared in front of me, the city, on the way down to Kiev. And yeah, it was just like sunshine again. It's very hot here during the summer. It's like 30 degrees normally. So not the image maybe the people have of Ukraine, but I think it's cold all the time. It's just cold in the winter. To
Yeah.
give you a little bit, I don't know how sidetracked. I showed you guys earlier. I was actually in Kiev getting my Belarusian visa, part of the whole language story. There is a language reason behind, but I'm going to tell everybody this. It's actually because my next language is going to be Belarusian.
Wow.
So you're the first guys to know. I'm giving you an exclusive.
All right.
That's cool. Are
And
they
that's,
all
sorry, go ahead.
like in my case? I mostly specialize in what you call Romance languages because they're all close to one another: French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese. I learned a bit of Romanian, and they're all sort of in the same class. You seem to be going for that too, with the Ukrainian, Russian, Belarusian.
Very, very true, Joey. Actually, I start off with your field of expertise, Romance languages, and it's pretty similar. Yeah, the Slavic languages, Russian is the first one that I learned, then Ukrainian, and now I'm going to learn some Belarusian. To be clear, I'm not going to try and learn Belarusian fluency. The reason for that is Belarusians speak Russian today. They do have a small minority that are actually ethnic Polish that speak Belarusian. Makes no sense why they all speak each other's languages anymore, but anyways, that's just basically what's happening in the countries.
So it's an endangered language basically now. Not many people speak it anymore.
It's a bit like Irish, I think. Having been born in Ireland, I can kind of relate to that, where you see Belarusian everywhere. Everything is bilingual. Same like in Ireland, the signs are bilingual. But you're not going to hear it in any big city at all.
Yeah.
I think I heard it once ever in Belarus, and I'm not even sure 100% it was Belarusian. I just heard something. I can't understand it. It's not Russian. It must be Belarusian. It could have been wrong. It could have been Polish for all I know. But yeah, so I'm going to learn a little bit of it. It seems to be quite similar to Ukrainian, so that's my little language project for the next 2 weeks. I'm not going to learn it to fluency or anything because basically I wouldn't be able to use it. So to spend years learning something I can't use is not part of my philosophy. So to get back to what I would give you a little bit encapsulate for your viewers who maybe aren't as familiar with me. I started a website, and then over the few years, I interviewed a lot of the big polyglots who you're going to see at LangFest or other polyglot conferences like Richard Simkov, Luca Lampiada, Benny Lewis, Richard Kaufman, Jan van der Raa. I'm not sure exactly who else we've got lined up to speak yet, but so I got into it like that, doing YouTube, and then basically in the last year or so, I've tried to create, I think, a new niche. Pretty much is where, as you probably alluded to. I traveled an awful lot, and because of that, I actually use the languages basically to facilitate my travels, and that's actually what I'm focusing a lot on in terms of filming over the last year. So you're going to see, I have my big weapon with me all the time, and so it's kind of more that I show the travel side and using the languages. One of the biggest complaints I get on my YouTube channel is the fact, oh, why is everything in Russian, why is it in Polish, blah, 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 blah. That's the whole point of my channel, is to show people that actually you can learn the language. You don't have to speak it completely fluently, but you can get great value out of it. And I think that's what really my channel shows people. And people complaining my channel are not people who should be watching it anyways, and I don't care about their criticism. That's not for you. If you're too lazy to go
they don't get the point of what you're trying to do, basically. If they're telling you, why aren't you talking in English? Why isn't everything in English? The whole point is to have stuff that is not in English, so you get an immersion.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Sometimes even same here, when I do a little interview and they don't speak very good English. Say, oh, is it going to be okay if I speak Russian? Like, perfect. This is perfect. What I want to show people. I don't want people to think like they're going to come to Ukraine, for example, and then suddenly be able to do everything in English and have the same experience. That's not the case. at all. So with that in mind, I have rebranded everything in the last 2 months. The name of my website and channel is now Tsar
It's our
Experience.
experience, huh?
Our
Yeah.
experience. Okay, that's cool.
So I'm still the Tsar, but I'm
So-
trying to show people an experience when they travel. So that's kind of the short synopsis of, and I'm also focusing in Eastern Europe. That's why you're going to see a lot of stuff here in Russian or Ukrainian or Belarusian.
So you've really shifted from a polyglot side to a travel blogger type.
Exactly.
And I've seen a few clips of dating tips and whatnot. Want to elaborate on that?
It's
I
another thing
didn't see
with
that
language.
one yet.
Yes, go. You should go check that out. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
So basically, yeah, one of the other things that, I mean, people never really talk about this online. I know personally half of them learn languages because of personal reasons. Either they had a girlfriend, a husband, a boyfriend, a lover, whatever, or they're just interested in girls and boys from a different country. That's why they learned Portuguese. Come on.
There you go.
You
You're just saying it as it is, right? There you go.
Exactly.
That's it. That's it.
This is, you get the raw truth here.
That's it. You gotta have a motivation for wanting to learn a language.
Joey,
Sometimes a cute girl or a cute boy will bring you there.
I think
You'll study more than you ever did before.
Yeah, the motivation is, I think most polyglots agree on, is the key to learning languages, and definitely romance is a huge motivation.
Yeah.
I think Luke Lang apparently is the only polyglot who's really ever even alluded to this before, but on my channel you're going to get the full Monty. It's going to be lots of dating advice and what is it like to date someone in a different language or a different culture.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm focusing on this region at the moment, and the thought process behind that is not just that I like being here and actually spend a lot of time. Actually, I noticed on YouTube that when I make a video from Western Europe, for example, it gets maybe about 10% of views when I make a video in Eastern Europe. So that was pretty clear to me over the last 6 months. Let's stop making videos in Western Europe because no one really cares. When I'm there, what people want to see is me here in Eastern Europe and speaking Ukrainian or Russian or what I have to speak Romanian, which you're going to see pretty soon as well. So that's why I have this focus. And the dating part of it is because a lot of guys in particular come here and they hope to meet beautiful Slavic women. And so they write to me all the time. So I'm like, okay, they want me to answer not just about the languages, not just about travel, also about dating and relationships. So that's why I've also started making these kind of videos. So
there you go. That's a nice niche. Like you say, you're moving away a little bit from the polyglot thing, and not completely being just a travel blogger, but that added bonus differentiates Conor Clyne, I guess.
Exactly.
Differentiates the Tsar experience.
Precisely.
Good thing.
And, I think for polyglots, this is something that maybe people are just too shy to talk about in general. I have rarely met a polyglot who didn't have at least romantic encounter in all their languages. So, I think it's just something people haven't dealt with. So now it's all out in the open. Like
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
I was doing well until I got married. That screwed it up for me. But yeah.
You can always have the knowledge. Maybe you'll never have
enjoy your freedom, Connor.
Been enjoying it very well. So yeah, so that's kind of like the explanation behind why I've done the rebranding and why the channel has started to explode actually in the last couple of months. And
well, good
you're
for
going
you.
to see me feature a lot of different channels outside of the language world. Like been on a Ukraine travel channel just 2 days ago. Going to be on a huge channel from a Mexican TV presenter who's actually born in Ukraine. So I'm actually going to do that in Spanish, that interview. And she's enormous, probably the biggest sportscaster, one of the biggest sportscasters in the country. And
she's originally Mexican.
She's actually born here, and she's on Mexican TV. So
wow.
We've chatted a little bit in the last few weeks. She's actually covering
That's interesting.
for Mexican TV. So there you go. It's not the connections with languages, like we only speak in Spanish. It's kind of funny because obviously we can speak in Russian or English or Ukrainian.
Are there a lot more tourists now in that area because of the World Cup and stuff like that? People are traveling more towards Russia. They're passing through Ukraine.
This is a very good point to pick up on, Joey, because Ukraine and Poland actually had the European Football Championships. It must be 6 years ago, maybe now, I think. And that brought a lot of people into Poland and Ukraine who would not have otherwise come. And now they're, of course, over in Russia. And for a lot of people, it's definitely their first time in Russia because normally you need a visa to go to Russia. But for the World Cup, if you have the ticket, there's a derogation, so you don't need a visa. So the process is a lot simpler. So I could see there's I don't know how many people traveled, but because that's something you can Google. But there seems to be a lot of Brazilians, a lot of Mexicans, a lot of people from all over the world, just first time in probably the region, and yeah, enjoying Russia at the moment. So yeah, I think it's gonna bring a lot more people to this region, and also the fact that the visa regulations have improved for people like you and me who are Canadian or Western European, or European in general actually, and North American. It's a lot easier to come to Ukraine. It's visa free for 90 days every 180, so you can spend 6 years without a visa. And Belarus has made it a little bit easier with 5 days visa free. So, but that's pretty short. But Russia is not so open yet. But there are other countries in the region where Russian is spoken. We're going to see like Kazakhstan is visa free 2 weeks, Kyrgyzstan 3 months. So there are a lot more easier ways to travel and use the language than there were maybe 10 years ago.
That's cool. I mean, my dream is to be able to just take a year off and travel and do a little bit like what you guys do. You guys are inspiring me to move towards that. Seems like a fun lifestyle. It's not easy, I'm sure. You have to find a way to be able to make a living and things of the sort. However, if you can find your angle and find something that you can do while you travel and learn languages, then that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I get to use the languages. Like, I've been speaking Russian for the last, well, I was in Russian-speaking cities. I have actually only spoken Ukrainian once or twice. When the Uber drivers keep calling me in Ukrainian, I don't know why. But I'm actually going to go to Belarus. I'll be Belarusian Russian. Then I'm going to be in Romania, Moldova. So there I'll be using Romanian quite a bit. So that's what motivates me. That's really the key to it. Like, I'll give you the counter example. I learned Irish. I was born in Ireland, and I alluded earlier that it's not very widely spoken today. But I actually learned the language as an adult, and I really spent I think I spent 6 months. I had classes like 2 or 3 times a week. A really good teacher. I actually got up to a really high level because I've had it in high school, so it's kind of a little bit dormant in my brain. And I was like, wow, I can watch TV. I'm watching documentaries. Like, it's amazing, right? But after another 2 or 3 months, because I filmed, obviously recorded this for my channel at the time, I was like, remind me again why I'm learning Irish, because watching documentaries, there's only so many I'm going to really watch. And I have one friend, for example, who actually speaks it pretty well, but I see him twice a year for a few days. And that's it.
Yeah, I think I saw you. I'm not sure if it was you, but I think it was you make a comment about one of the reasons why you would never learn Esperanto.
Yeah.
And you know, and we have a lot of good friends that are into the Esperanto movement, but it's hard for me to commit to a language that it's not really spoken by a country. There's no culture. To me, there has to be a vibe. You know, and there's a big Esperanto thing coming in 2 years in Montreal. So I'm telling myself I should make an effort to try to learn it more, but it's hard.
I think my video is pretty fair to them, Esperantos actually, because I know I try to rattle people with the first few seconds for hostile.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it is. I mean, it's a beautiful concept. I would love to learn it, but there's so many other languages that I would want to learn first. That
opportunity cost, right? If you spend time on Esperanto, you don't spend time on other languages. And, it's only, I think, if you believe in the political ethos behind Esperanto, then I would see a real strong motivator to learn it. Because what I find is there's a huge number of nearly all Esperantists are polyglots, right?
Absolutely, it's one of the interesting things.
Yeah, but I can speak to them in at least one other language, right? I would never actually need Esperanto to communicate to someone new, almost certainly, because they've all learned at least English or Spanish or most of them speak so many languages. It's just they're all, and I go into the video, it's easy to learn, but I'd rather learn, I don't know, Swahili and learn basic Swahili and speak to a few people in East Africa and go there and travel. That would be so much more interesting than speaking the same Esperanto that I can speak to anyways. That's always my point with them. It's I can talk to you anyways. So
it was a very, I guess, controversial yet interesting take on language, and for me it resonated because I said it's true. I mean, I would love to learn, but like I said, so many other languages that I want to learn, and most of them are tied to a country, a culture, a different thing. So
well, I'm gonna
usually win.
I'm gonna stop you guys right here for a minute and to just acknowledge the folks that are
Our friend
online.
Nicolas, that's bashing me for
Yeah.
saying what I did.
No,
Sorry, Nicolas.
just saying hello to the folks who are watching us online. We have some folks on our LangFest channel on Facebook with Nicolas. We have George. On our LangFest channel on YouTube, we have Musab. We have Carol, and Carol was saying she couldn't agree more. While we were talking about the motivation to learn given languages. So yeah, just a big hello to all the folks watching right now. And like you said, Nicolas is watching, so we wouldn't want to slide down the
Nicolas,
slippery
just
road
to say
with the Esperanto.
that love sometimes does bring people together in languages. I know personally of a couple that Nicolas introduced me to that they met because of Esperanto, and they're together now. And their language is Esperanto because that's their common language. They both come from different countries. But anyways, I mean, knowing a language opens you up to another world that you did not know before you started learning that language, no matter where that language is from.
Agreed.
That's it.
So,
do you know what you're going to be talking about this year, Connor?
Wow, we haven't actually discussed that part, have we? What is... Well, with the rebranding and everything, I'm going to have to talk about the languages in this region. I'm traveling here. So it will be something to do with former Soviet Union. Here's
my request. Here's my request. Yeah. Just at least a part of your talk should have some of those dating advice. I'd like to hear some of that stuff.
You know what? I was about to suggest something. That's it. It was like, well, sorry, I'm going to choke on the little bit of, not there. Does learning Belarusian Ukrainian make it easier to pick up girls? How about that?
All right, there you go.
Find love or something like that. In my case, it's going to be girls, and I think it's mainly guys who travel this region that people love girls. There are some girls I have seen them interviewed who came here and found men, but in general, it tends to be Western guys or Asian guys a lot actually at the moment who come here looking for love. So
well.
Ukrainian and Belarus are not Russian, right? Because Russian is like a given, right? Everybody basically can speak Russian in the region. But do you get that extra language love boost from learning Ukrainian in particular? I think that one will be interesting to see. And I've been asked that several times too.
It seems to be you've been there for a little while now, so you've got an certain appreciation for it. The north and the south, the part that's now Russian versus the part that's. I mean, is there still a lot of animosity, or does everybody live in harmony and peace now? How are things there?
Like, you mean inside Ukraine itself? Or
yeah, that's it.
In Ukraine itself, well, there's actually a war in the east of the country that's isolated to the very east, right? Where there's conflict, and most people who follow the news or have heard it in the last years will be aware of that. Ukrainians themselves, there's less animosity today than there was in the past over the language issue. I don't think really language is so important. You can speak in Russian in Lviv, and you can speak Ukrainian here. Like, no one really cares too much which language you speak. Mm-hmm. Only a very small minority of people on the extremes of both sides who really care. Most Ukrainians are actually bilingual.
And for yourself as a tourist, well, now an immigrant, I guess, you found a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things for you to do and see and stuff like that. It's been a country that's been very welcoming to you.
Exactly. Extremely welcoming. There's a lot to offer here. I think the way to sum it up is this is not don't think the seaside here is the Côte d'Azur. It doesn't have that level of infrastructure. For example, people are really welcoming. Food is great. It's the cheapest country in Europe, so you can really be a baller. That's what I like to say, like live the high life on a very modest budget. Actually, my dad came to visit, and my dad is like almost 70, and he'd never been this far east in his life in Europe. Wow. He loved it. He had a great time. He was really fascinated by everything. He loved the depths of the city. And, I mean, it is a little bit run down in parts of the city, but it gives it a certain charm. It just depends what you like in general. Yeah, I've never had a friend come here and not have a great time. So
It must be beautiful.
guys, girls, straight, gay, everybody told me they bloody loved it. So I was a bit surprised, but yeah, it was like, okay, everybody thinks it's cool. So I think the prices make a big difference. Like if you're going to compare it like with going to Western Europe, I mean, you will spend probably a quarter of the money here than you would in Western Europe. And this for the
It's a lot
same.
cheaper than Russia, I assume.
Well, in Russia, it's
Cost of
just
living.
yeah, it's cheaper here. I think Russia, outside of St. Petersburg, Moscow, is actually not that expensive, anyways. But here is definitely the cheapest that you're going to find. And I think when I say the cheapest, I mean cheapest for the same standard.
Hmm.
I find that other people quote me very cheap prices in the Balkans. And what I find the Balkans is the standard of food and amenities is not really comparable. I don't really think they have that level yet. Maybe with one or two exceptions, like Belgrade, I think is awesome. But in general, I think it's just like cheaper because it's not as good. Here, it's just going to be the same standard basically. Some people are like my ex-girlfriend even came here, and she's a lady who likes to hang out in the best places in the tour in Paris and stuff like that. And she was like, "Okay, I hate to admit it, but it's actually not that."
It's a nice vibe.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you showed
So
us your
for-
passport before, Connor. You must have traveled to a lot of countries.
Yes,
by now?
and unfortunately, this is a new passport, so I can't do the.
No, I'm not saying to show,
But I
but
would-
just talk about which countries have you visited in the area, or
Okay, so
what's next for you?
I have visited 80 countries. I'm not personally one
80,
to
wow.
collect stamps.
80
or-
countries.
Yes. I'm not a
Wow.
person who just tick off countries like this and go, oh, I've been to 100 or I've been to 120. Although that is cool at the same time being safe, 80 or 100,
Okay.
whatever. I never set out with that. I've actually visited every single country in Europe, all 50. And that was, the last 5 of those were deliberate because I said, oh, I've only 5 left I've never been to. Let me just go to all 5. So I did that. And I recorded a documented a small bit. I was not a travel vlogger, unfortunately, at the time. I spend a lot of time in Latin America and here. I love Brazil. It's my favorite country. I think coming up for me, I like to go back to places that I've enjoyed a lot. That's why you see me here in Ukraine a lot. And I like to discover new cities or new regions. I don't necessarily need to go to new countries to like have them all add up to 150 eventually. I'd rather go and have really amazing, memorable experiences. And so what I'm thinking is that I will go to Russia for 3 months, certainly within the next year, and really go to European Russia first, maybe as far as Lake Baikal in Asia, but I think that's very optimistic. I'd really like to go and just travel around outside of St. Petersburg and Moscow, actually, to really document European Russia, because I think that's a part of the world that very few tourists actually travel to. Most Russian tourism is concentrated in those 2 big cities. So that's what I think for me would be the most interesting to do. Also in Brazil, I'm going to go back to the very south of Brazil and document more about the languages that still survive there from the European colonization. So Dutch, German, Italian, Russian, Ukrainian, Polish are all spoken in the south of Brazil in different communities today.
Wow.
And very few people's image of a Brazilian is normally, I guess, a girl dancing samba with a big ass, maybe half black, half white, right, or maybe even darker, maybe more African than European descent. And that's a certain image of Brazil if you're going to find a Rio de Janeiro, for example. But for example, Tetsu would look more Brazilian than that either of us in Sao Paulo, because there's
Absolutely.
like so many,
That's
right?
a lot of Japanese descendants.
Yeah, exactly. There's 1 million. And if you go to the very south, no one actually believes I'm an immigrant or a foreigner in the very south of Brazil, because 95% of the population is 100% European descent. So people just think, your family's German.
You're one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And if I've been in Brazil for my accent isn't very strong, it sounds a little bit like it's from Sao Paulo, and then they even refuse, unless I show my passport, that I'm actually not even Brazilian. So this is a very different side to Brazil. And also culturally, it's quite distinct down there in the south. And for me, fascinating, because I just read about them. This is one that really makes things about traveling. It's like I read online a little bit about the Polish community here, Italian community here, German community here, Ukrainian community. I could find no real evidence. Like, you don't actually see YouTube videos of people who go there and actually speak in their languages and really document the culture. So I went, before I was a travel YouTuber, language YouTuber, and I did interview a lot of people in the south of Brazil, in Ukrainian, German, Italian, What I really want to go is go back and do a complete tour, maybe spend 2 months and really go and show people, listen, you can even come to Brazil, you can do everything, not just speaking Portuguese. Here we have like a real Russian community and people still speak Russian. And here we have the Dutch community. They have windmills everywhere and it's tropical.
Are you serious? Even windmills and stuff like that?
Wow. I wore lederhosen, I think 4 times.
Wow.
Beer festivals and the world's second and third biggest Oktoberfest is actually not in Germany, it's in the south of Brazil. So number 1 is Munich, which you all know, and then number 2 is in Blumenau, and number 3 is in Santa Cruz.
Really? I heard the second one was in Kitchener-Waterloo in Canada, but
maybe
Canadian porcupines there. I've been told, that's my understanding. But we can do a comparison. Also to going to a beer festival in Canada.
Well, it's about 1 month away from when you come, depending how long you stay. You could go check it out and do a documentary on
a real life comparison. There you go.
So an interesting anecdote, just to explain how languages can create connections, because I think it's interesting. Somebody who's probably watching the call is, I was in one of these towns in the south of Brazil, and I actually went to try and go somewhere that was closed, nothing to do with languages. And I went to the cafe across the street, and there was a young guy, and he said, "Hey, I'm here doing this project about looking for these language communities." And he said, "Oh, next door is the German museum in the town." I was like, "Wow, I didn't know there was a German museum." Like, I was not in the center of the town, right? It's really out, somewhere pretty obscure. So I go next door, and there's this old guy comes in, and he's like, we speak in Portuguese. He speaks a little bit of German. He says his grandfather is German, and he starts talking. He says, "Actually, I'm writing a history of how they emigrated." I said, because he said they came from the Russian Empire, German speakers from ethnic Germans from the Russian Empire. And I said, "Oh, that's really interesting, because I spent part of the year in the former Russian Empire." And he's like, "Do you know where Odessa is?" I was like,
"Oh, wow.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time. My grandfather is from near Odessa." I was like, "No, show me the name of the town." It's actually a town that is very close to here, that when some of my German friends who live here want to go and visit because there's a museum. I was like, "Man, we have to do an interview. This is too weird," right? So, and he was so proud, because you can imagine it's pretty lonely work to document that. It's just for the other people in his town or just in the region. Have a YouTuber who specializes in language suddenly walk into your museum that you maintain, like you finance yourself as a hobby, and have people say, "Hey, I'm going to publicize this to everybody on my channel." And it got such a reaction. So many people were like, especially Brazilians, were like, "Wow, yes, I'm from another part of Brazil, and that's so cool that this guy has set this up, and we can read his book and learn."
That is really and I think it's one of the things you enjoy when you travel, to meet people like him and have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wrap this up in a couple of minutes. I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. So, obviously today you're on a Facebook Live with Tetsu and Joey. We're talking about LangFest. We're all excited about your coming. It's going to be in Montreal from August 21st to 26th. The first 3 days is mostly city tours. If you get here early, you should join in. They're absolutely free for everyone. And we'll bring you to all the nice parts of the city, the mountain. We might do some day trips to other cities, but that's still to be determined. It'll depend on whether there's interest or not. Because from Montreal, there's about an hour or two away. You have Quebec City. You have the capital, Ottawa, which might be worthwhile. But either way, 3 days of social activities before, and it really kicks off on the Friday, the 24th. It's going to be held at Concordia University. We created a promo code for your followers if they want to use it to get 15% off on a registering for LangFest, to get the chance to come and see you speak. And what is it, Conor or Clyne?
It's Conor. It's Conor.
Conor.
It's the first name.
Okay. So this will be CONNOR.
Yep.
I assume.
One
N CONOR.
It's going to misspell my name.
Yeah.
My
Sorry, my fault. That's probably not how Tetsu spelled it, but I just made a mistake. So Conor. So use Conor, and you save 15% off. We're really looking forward to seeing you in Montreal. It's going to be a real privilege for us to be able to have the chance to see you. I hope you get here often, because I want to hear you get here earlier, because I want to hear more about your stories. Sounds like really, really interesting. Montreal is a very dynamic city. A little bit like in Ukraine. We have the two languages. Certain parts are French, certain parts are English. Many parts are multicultural. You'll probably find it interesting. You'll have a lot of. It'll be worthwhile for you to have come all the way down to North America to attend our festival.
Definitely hope you arrive soon, sooner than later.
I've been to Montreal before. I had a fantastic time. It's a great city. I only got to spend one night. I made a stopover on my way to British Columbia, my cousin's wedding, just because I wanted to see Montreal at least once in my life.
All right.
I'll have another excuse.
Good.
Great reason to come back.
Stay for a whole week.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Hopefully you can stay for you can be here from the beginning and really make the most of your experience, Conor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you.
And we'll see you here August 21st, 26th.
That's a wrap. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.